Hi Uday and
Right.
welcome everybody to the this episode of the Wise Wednesday. We are on season 2, episode 8, and you saw the precursor to Uday Kagal's book, which is this one, Homo Destructus. Animals pay the price, and in that really well-made, compelling video with a call for action, we really go into listening to the making of this book, and before that, a little bit about the author to get a context. So, Uday, you call yourself a barefoot manager, and you've tried to bridge in the 35 years of your work. You've seen different parts of the world as well, and you say this is your sixth book and your last book. It's your parting gift. So, tell us how you came to be a writer.
Okay, it was accidental. I became a consultant, so I had free time on my hand. Yeah, but actually, to make it, I can talk about this a lot, but in short, I saw two different worlds in those 35 years. I started out in rural development, and 2 years that I spent in Bihar working with Santals. Those actually were the best years of my life. They changed my life, because it raised a really very big question for me. I was working in rural development, and are we really going to develop them, or are we going there to suck them into our paradigm of progress? It was, and that has stayed with me. So all the five books I've written up until now all challenge the what is called the idea of progress. So there is a counter theory called the myth of progress, which most people like to ignore. Everybody is caught up in the idea of progress. So that was really what made me start writing, because there was a dissonance, that stayed with me, that started then, back in 80s, uh, 990. I was in a place called Godda, which is now in Jharkhand.
Mm-hmm.
It was
Mm-hmm.
completely tribal, and working with those tribals was fascinating. You
Mm-hmm.
know, the life they lived was so simple. So the dissonance was, there was a simple traditional life up until, so those pockets still stay. But even if you look at our generations or our social class, back 2 generations ago, we were talking about this the other day about your grandparents' home, right? Just 2 generations ago, life was much simpler, right? And in just the last 40 years, 50 years, life has become complex, the complex and modern. So I'm not really sure we are heading in the right direction. So that dissonance made me write those books. And this one is no different. It also challenges the idea of progress with a specific focus on the impact on animals.
On
Right?
animals, yeah.
Yeah. So,
In fact, you I have been following some of your work, and each time, there was something about it which reflected a deep inner angst, a kind of, a frustration, anger, sadness. And this book has a lot of fact, a lot of data. So it is based on videos you've seen. So how did this book come to be? The specific book on animals. Was there an incident that you want to tell the viewers?
Uh, yeah, so I all my books were unpopular topics, right? Nobody wants to question the idea of progress. Many will actually, in their own minds, they do question it, but when it comes to living the life, they just go along because they don't want to be left behind, right? It's
Yeah.
like being on a treadmill. It's what is in a cliched way called the rat race. So people don't like the idea of the myth of progress. Everybody goes along. So I had written five books. They didn't gain much popularity expectedly. And I got tired also. So I had decided not to write another one. But then what happened was, along the way, then, we got Maggie. Maggie is sitting with me on my bed about 8.5 years ago. Then about 4 years ago, we had puppies with her, 10 puppies. Those are the 10 most glorious weeks of our life. 10 boxer puppies running around our home was chaos, right? And then the puppies left. We were back to Maggie, and I had taken Maggie down to the garden one day. and I saw this small little puppy. He was not more than 3-4 inches tall. He was wandering about alone. So he had been abandoned there in the middle of the night.
Oh.
And I couldn't leave him there because a few months earlier, another puppy had been a sweet little white puppy. And when I tried to approach her, she was very scared. So I couldn't approach her. She was scared of Maggie, she was scared of me. And I left her there. And a few days later, somebody else told me that she had been mangled by the stray dogs.
Oh.
She had taken her home and then she had named her also Pebbles. And I said, "Hey, you've named her. So are you going to keep her?" So she did keep her. She got her healed and she kept her. And she became an adorable puppy when she used to come down. But the fact is, if I left this fellow here, he would have met the same fate, you see. So I took him home. We gave him a bath, took him to the vet. He had all kinds of problems. He was just 2 kilos, 2 kilos, estimated to be 6 weeks old. His ears were teeming with ticks. It was filled. It was overflowing. Both his ears were overflowing with ticks. They were just a mass inside his ear. Body was steaming with fleas. His stomach was bloated to 3 times its normal size with worms, and he had early signs of mange. So we started the treatments. He started getting better. He started harassing Maggie in the house, and they used to play. But we had not planned on another dog. So then we started looking for a home for him. I think that was the start of my journey to come to this book. Like I said, I decided never to write a book again because it is simply exhausting, you know. But we started looking for a home for him, and we obviously initially talked to the people who would help with Maggie's puppies adoptions, but they just put up their hands. You say, "Ki
Hmm.
bahut mushkil hai." Then we reached
Hmm.
out to other people, and it was not happening. Then I signed up to 8 or 10 adoption groups on Facebook, pet
Hmm.
adoption groups, and no response.
Hmm.
And in fact, every single day there used to be new posts for adoptions, and it
Yeah.
was so depressing. I don't know if you've been to these sites. It is so depressing. Every single day, there were either orphaned puppies, injured animals, mistreated animals, abandoned animals, uh, all kinds. Mostly Indies, also breed dogs. Also, breed dogs were being put up for adoption because suddenly the owner decided, "Oh, no, I can't take care of him or her anymore," right? And it was very depressing. In the process, then I also started looking up strays. Nowadays Google provides you everything as long as you know what you want to look for, right?
Yeah.
So I started looking at the conditions of strays, initially from India and then globally and stuff like that, and I found things. Then I came across puppy mills, and I was horrified, you know. And then I stumbled onto factory farms. So that was actually what
Yeah.
really brought me into this world. You see, this whole world of uh, animals and what they endure. I also came across animal experimentation, which, if anything, is the worst of it all. There are monkeys where the skulls are drilled into while they are conscious to run experiments. Dogs are fed toxins every day for a year to develop medicines for us. It's horrific. So I had started a blog, just to spread the word because all of this that I was finding out, I had not known about. And I've been an animal lover ever since I was a kid. I'll come to that. So I just started a blog to spread the word. And sadly, initially there was a response, and sadly, over time, the response just kept diminishing.
Hmm.
It just kept diminishing. And then I sent my last message saying I'm stopping with great sadness because I don't think humans have the bandwidth or inclination to get animals into their worldview.
Hmm. Hmm.
Because it was not about me; it was animals, right? It was
Yeah.
nothing, not my point of view. Most of those posts were all factual. I was just sharing information, but people just lost interest. Then, during the course of those posts, somebody sent me a link. She was an Amchi, coincidentally, Trupti Krishna Rao, somewhere in the
Okay.
Netherlands, on the Anandashram group. She sent
Okay.
me the link to a video, Earthlings 10-year anniversary edition.
Uh-huh.
It blew my mind. In fact, I start my book with that, saying that if you watch that documentary, you don't need to read my book. Really. It was horrific. Even to get through the first 15 minutes was horrific. But I sat through that 1.5 hour documentary. That's actually what I would call the trigger for my book. I said, look, even I didn't know about these things. And I was an animal lover ever since I was a kid. You know, I wanted to be a vet. As a kid, I used to play with frogs and earthworms. As a kid, I used to find injured kittens or puppies, and I used to take a cab and take them to Bombay SPCA to get them treated. And I had very much wanted to be a vet, but it didn't work out. So uh, then I wandered 35 years, and the rest I've spoken about.
So,
So
so
really,
your book,
the book was finally triggered by Earthlings. Yeah,
so you took how long to write this book?
I think over a year and 100 iterations.
And you tell me that this book was actually 50,000 odd words, which
No,
must have been
80,000.
80,000 words. So it was like maybe three times the size of this one.
Yeah.
So I'm just very curious. What parts did you have to let go of? I'm just trying to.
I did not have to actually take out sections. I just reduced the wordings. I just, had to shorten the message. And this I was helped by very much by my publisher, Gitika. She
Okay.
said, long books don't get read nowadays. She said an ideal book length is 25 to 30,000 words. So I spent just 4 days bringing 80,000 words down to 35,000 words.
Hmm.
You know, and I was much happier at the end of it actually, because ultimately, it's a small message: prevent animal cruelty and save the planet for future generations. So, it didn't require 500 pages actually. So,
So you have this book organized in three parts. The first is the part where you write about the companion animals, and I must tell you, each one of the short chapters that you have, I simply love the chapter titles you've got. They are so on point. They're really a like you read that, and there's both. Some of them are like for example, breed them dry, catch 22, you know
my
yang
favorite,
one.
my favorite is 6 feet under extinctions.
Yes,
That's
yes,
the worst impact of humanity.
yeah.
So, I wanted to come to something which I wanted to start.
Cat's pajamas was very intriguing.
Yeah, catch pajamas about elitism. So that's veganism paradox. So, there's an irony in our conversation today. So we are here for Wise Wednesday, right? And we saw the video. The video actually says we are no longer Homo sapiens. Homo sapiens in Latin means
Wise.
wise man. So the question really is, are we wise? That is one of the central questions of the book. In fact, an important topic discussed also is, in the prologue and epilogue, I start with the question: has humanity lost the plot?
Yes.
So I think that is the more serious question we have to ask ourselves.
Yeah, yeah.
Have
So
we
the
really got
first
it?
part is really the companion animals,
Yeah.
and then you move to the. So I must confess, when I got this book from Amazon, it took me about 3 weeks to say now I'm ready for the book. I had to give you a date because I had to read the book because I knew some of this is stuff that is going to make me it is going to be so moving and so disturbing that I had to sort of prepare myself uh, in parts. And when you say a video, but people like us and my generation that loves books and would always prefer a book over a movie, reading this made was a starting point, and a huge amount of understanding. I mean, I'm again a dog lover. I remember there's a lot of thought that goes into everything. So even before we got our first puppy Brandy home, we had a book called Dogs for Indian Homes, and we studied as a family what it meant and what are the commitments to have a dog and why it is like it's like having one more baby, one more child who's going to be with you, who's going to age with you, who's going to have cancer and illness and death. And it's going to be a journey. So it's a huge commitment. And so in that sense, we were not new, and we are also like a family. My mother or my maternal side cousins, everybody has a dog. So it's a part of who we are. And yet you say that, dog ownership is only pet ownership is only 7% in the country. I just Even that number seemed very small. And then you see so many dogs, you see so many dogs on the road, and you make a case on what is the issue with strays in this country, in overseas, and with very specific uh, challenges and concerns. You want to talk about that in terms of our responsibility as
Yeah,
citizens?
that's really our obsession with a certain kind of coat. Like the quote that was given to PETA by one celebrity, I keep forgetting his name. It is a tragedy that there are so many dogs in need of homes, and yet we obsess over a dog with a certain kind of fur. It just hit home for me, and that is really it. These breed dogs that we bring home, that's the only difference between the stray dogs that are called Indies, right? It's just the coat that is different. You know, Indies are as adorable, big, as good pets. But the tragedy is that whilst there are 500 million strays globally, India has 80 million, right? India is amongst the top three countries of with strays. India, US, and China together account for half the stray population in the world, around 70 to 80 million each, right? There are 80 million strays. Those make as adorable pets, and yet people keep buying from puppy pets. The lockdown, and this is a problem that I have. All the people who bring dogs home are not necessarily animal lovers. Like you very rightly said, it is a commitment. People don't see it as a commitment. They see a dog as a toy. Many people see a dog as a toy.
Hmm.
So but the children are asking for it, so let's bring it. People around me have it. It's the fashionable thing to do. Let's get a dog. And then the dog is relegated to walkers and maids. I can give you stories, but I won't give those stories now of uh, how, I'll give you one story. There
Please.
was a puppy, and I won't take names in case they end up watching the video. It was an indie. It was not even a breed dog. It was rescued, brought home, such an adorable kid, yeah. They started bringing him down at 3, 4 months age. He's so playful. He would come running to me when he saw me. And then few weeks later, they did not have time to bring him down. His socialization period stopped. He became extremely aggressive to other dogs. He became extremely aggressive to humans. He nearly bit me once. I was going
Okay.
to pet him, and he came nearly to bite me. You destroyed a dog.
Hmm.
You destroyed a dog just because you felt, very charitable because you're giving a stray dog home. So even breed dogs, lots of dogs, they come, they're brought home. Initially, they are a novelty.
Hmm.
Then afterwards, people realize it's not a novelty; it's a commitment,
Yeah, it's a
like you
commitment.
said, and they don't see it as a commitment.
Hmm.
But डॉग को घर पे छोड़ के दिन भर ऑफिस चले जाते हैं, तुम बच्चे को छोड़ के जाएगा?
Correct.
नहीं ना, अकेला. So anyway, so
Yeah.
that is the issue. I think that we not even all the people who bring dogs home are not necessarily animal lovers,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's like style and status and other things, right? Instead of buying a car is meant to get you from point A to point B reliably, but we
Yeah.
buy a BMW. Where you want a Husky or you want a Saint Bernard, absolutely not suited to our environments.
Yeah, yeah. And you see them walking, and I always feel, my God, whether those hearts can even take that much of a walk, whether
Yeah.
they've got their tongues out, they are hot as and it's 40 degrees to walk that dog with such a coat.
Saint Bernards are supposed to be in the Swiss Alps. Huskies are supposed to be in Siberia. So,
Yeah.
anyway, so yeah, so that is the
The,
problem about companion animals. I think
yeah.
personally, like you said, India it's only 7%. In the
Mm,
US, it is 70%. In comparison, Indians are still climbing up the ladder. You know, so they're busy
mm,
with climbing the ladder, so they do not have the bandwidth for animals to enter into their worldview. US is
Yeah.
climbed there, and now they say, oh, let us be humanitarian. Now let us also feel for animals. So let us get a dog home. So
Hmm.
plus they have more space, they have more room, they have bigger homes. So
I would like every school to have this book and have children read this, because I think they are the ones, like kids in school, college, they are the ones who need to know this. The next one is on factory farms, and factory farms, again, a lot of research that you've done about different animals, and you then also talk about veganism and that sort of journey about awareness. And I was really interested, it was really interesting to see that veganism and vegetarianism almost the societies are about 100 years old, more
yeah,
than more than that,
veganism
150
itself is 150 years old.
150 years old.
Vegan society.
Yes, 1944 or something, you write, I think. And you also make a case on, very powerful case, where you say that how the carbon footprint from food can actually come down by 73% if people adopted veganism, and farmland use can come down by 75%, which means more forest, and how our water footprint. And I think, as they're saying, the next war is going to be fought on water.
Yeah, it will. In fact, you read the case on China, right, and desertification.
Yeah.
Our aquifers are getting depleted. So there's two things really about factory farms that I find horrendous. Uh, the first is the scale. When we talk about stray animals, it's 500 million with an M. When you talk about factory farms, it's 70 billion with a B. You see, and the even strays, okay, they suffer, they have hardship, there is cruelty, but the magnitude is nowhere compared to what happens on factory farms. First and foremost, those animals are endure lifetime cramped confinement. Just think of it: a cow that is tied up in a tie stall all her life, a short life of 5 years, because after 5 years she is unproductive because of udder breakdown and she's slaughtered. A chicken which is supposed to be free running, free roaming, is for meat. Broiler chickens are kept in windowless sheds. In each shed would have 60 to 80,000 chickens. There's no room to run around. They're running over each other. Egg laying hens are kept in cages that are the size of an A4 paper all their life. you know, pigs. Pigs are put in crates where they cannot even move. They cannot move. So the first part, there are many horrors in factory farms, and the book actually covers it in more gory detail than is actually palatable, actually, right? But the first aspect is lifetime confinement. The second is mutilations, right?
Yeah.
They undergo most horrific mutilations as young and as infants without anesthetic. So their tails are docked, the ears are clipped, their teeth are also cut, they're debeaked. All these things happen without. And if you see those videos, if you think the book is bad, you should just. All these videos are there on YouTube. On YouTube, yeah. Just look up some videos. They actually make your hair stand. All these things happen. And so mutilations is the second part. Third, really big bad part is uh, artificial augmentation. You know, milk productivity has been increased so much just in the last 30, 40 years. These cows have, I don't know if you've seen pictures, their udders are huge, distended. Within a few years, they suffer from udder breakdown, mastitis, with just milk producing machines. They're not cows anymore. Chickens are enhanced so much that chicks which are still chirping have the bodies of adults, and their body weight is so much that their legs break under the weight. So So that's the third aspect, which artificial augmentation. And the fourth is slaughter. Transport and slaughter is bad enough, but slaughter is even worse, right? So that's one part
I
of
think
it.
even transport we should keep separate from slaughter, because transport itself,
Yeah, it's
I mean,
horrible.
I shut my eyes if we are parked behind or we are traveling behind any of the vehicles that are riding, taking chicks.
Yeah,
I cannot even keep my eyes open.
horrible to see. The worst image. You should. I don't know if you haven't watched Earthlings, the documentary. You should steel yourself and watch it once. You will become an advocate, even if you're not an animal lover. Or rather, if you're an animal lover, you will convert from being a lover to an advocate. The most gruesome image from that 1.5 hour documentary is transport, overseas transport, right? It's called live animal transport. So there's a bull, a full-grown adult bull, and adult bulls can weigh anywhere from 1,000 to 1,500 kilos. It is being shifted by a crane from a ship to land, strung on one hind leg. Now, just imagine if we weighed, let's say, 10 times our weight, and let's say our leg muscle mass is, let's say, 2 to 3 times what it is today. Just imagine the agony of being strung on one leg, and that too, maybe 100 foot above the water. You're not a bird, you're a land animal, and you're being swung on a crane like that. It's the most gruesome image from that documentary, but can go on. So that is
And
the
slaughter, that's the other one.
slaughter. Yeah, slaughter
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
But there
Then
is a
no,
second aspect which you mentioned, which is the
yeah,
impact on the environment. So in the past,
yeah,
there were other factors for deforestation. Today, factory farms are the most major factor for deforestation. You know,
yes.
so I give you one anecdote. Land in the Amazon is cleared at the rate of the size of a football field every minute. To feed soya to pigs in China. So we chop down 41 million trees a day, 15 billion a year. We're causing extinctions at 100 to 1,000 times natural background rates. And defaunation is more visible. Extinctions will take longer because extinction means every last individual of a species has vanished. But defaunation, you know, 68% of fauna has been reduced in the last 40 years, according to the World Wildlife Fund Living Planet Index. There is some controversy on that number, but all other metrics support the fact these declines are humongous. Big cat populations have reduced by 95% in the last 50 years. So that is actually the question. We started with the video teaser, which was a good way to start, Deepa. I had hesitated to start with that, actually.
No, I think it was important because even when I watched, that was what I watched several times, and it's also something to create the curiosity. You write about yourself as someone who's curious. You're a researcher, you're a consultant. You use data, facts. You're kind of triangulating a lot of information from different sources to put this together, and it's like the whole global warming. I mean, there will be a cohort that will choose to say that global warming is a myth, and that's how it is, right? So if we can sort of be anesthetized, behave like as if we are under anesthesia when we are going about
It's super. We are zombies in a way. Most people are zombies because they don't ask questions, right? You
correct.
go through the day and then you go through the next day. You're not actually
Yeah,
questioning your life, really. I'm sorry, that's a
yeah. But this
personal
whole
opinion.
aspect, of a humane kind of world, and I thought we are just 5th June was uh, you know we just celebrated on 5th June. We've celebrated Earth, and I thought it was important to talk about animals at short uh, immediately after this. So the timing of this conversation is also meant to be very intentional, because there is already some orientation or some kind of thought a lot of communication on
You know
conversations
what the
that's are.
problem is, Deepa? The problem is people, uh, however much they might express feeling and sorrow and whatever, the simple fact of the matter is people are unwilling to give up the privileges they derive from animals. Therefore, they turn a blind eye.
So you
They are
talk about
unwilling. Yeah.
no, you talk about pet ownership, which itself, like, as opposed to being a pet parent, the language itself has a gap over
You know,
there.
I was part of the pet. I'm not part of WhatsApp group, but we moved to a new house and I joined this group. It was called Pet Owners. And at some point, I'd made a post and somebody objected to it venomously, because
Hmm.
a dog had actually attacked, run down a kid, 3 times. It started chasing that kid, knocked it down 3 times. I said, look, this is not good behavior, right? You have to have your dog in control. Otherwise, you cannot blame other people for being scared. Something like about that. And this somebody came back with a very strong response. I said, I'm sorry, I do not want to deal with this. I'm going to leave this group. In any case, it is called Pet Owners Group. So it's all about mindset, Deepa. And unless mindsets change, nothing will change. We can keep saying all these good things. We can have these World Environment Days. We can do all this stuff. The amount of effort so many organizations are putting in. I'm on the newsletters of PETA, Vegan Outreach, Humane Society International, Animal Equality. How much they're doing. Are they making any progress? How much they're struggling. After a point, I get depressed by reading their mail. So sometimes I just archive it. I don't even read the full mail sometimes. Sometimes I read it because I get nearly daily mailers.
Hmm.
But so much is happening. There are today. I happen to be watching a movie, Shark Waters.
Hmm.
They are working to protect sharks from shark fin trade. Some he mentioned some billion sharks are killed every year just for the soup, and he showed, and he said it's so dangerous just exposing this industry. He has escaped with his life on 5 to 6 occasions. It's all boils down to business. It all boils down to the idea of progress. You see.
So you have
Ultimately,
something where you say, show you care.
yeah.
And this is, I think, again, very important as we come to the close of this episode, which is the citizens movement that you've started, where you say no to strays, to puppy mills, to factory farms, to animal based fashion, to animal entertainment, animal experimentation, deforestation, and defaunation. And there's a link that Uday has, which is at the end of this book. And I urge each and everyone watching, and if you're going to be sharing this video, just to become aware and sensitized. There are times when you see random cruelty. I mean, I have witnessed cruelty, and I where just a 9-day-old puppy was flung out of a car window tied in a plastic bag, and my daughter and I were walking, and I was really, I didn't know it was a puppy, and my I just thought it was like somebody being just ill mannered throwing. And my daughter said, Mama, I think it's moving. And I said, Ria, wait. And before I could sort of say it, she had taken it, she opened, she saw there's a puppy, then there's a somebody in the lane, both of them, Mira and Ria, they got in touch with the vet. They went to the vet. The puppy was alive for maybe 9 days at Mira's home, and it died. And you know, when you see things like that, you say, kindness, being human. Uh,
Humanity has lost the plot, Deepa. Really.
huh,
I told you this. You remember, when you set up this thing, one of the first things I said, be warned. I'm a cynic. This is why I'm a cynic. But then I still am hopeful, so I wrote the book. If I had been a complete cynic, I would not have even bothered,
yeah,
right?
you're harsher on yourself. You don't have to. I think you call this book your gift to voiceless animals and future generations, and I truly think it is a gift. And I don't. I'm not saying nice things because you're on this show, because I wouldn't have invited you if I didn't think this book was so powerful. And those watching, those associated with kids, parents, those who own pets, those who are in neighborhoods and communities that have pets. I think just, you know, even the choices you make about the food we eat, I mean, that's a very personal choice. But I think even to just be sensitive about this whole aspect of factory farms, I think is very important. And for our own survival and for our children and our grandchildren, I think we ought to really take a re-look at ourselves on, are we Homo sapiens or are we Homo destructus? So, you know,
So
who
my
would.
book title suggests the answer.
Yes. So, I mean, I'm a perpetual hopeful, and I would always err on the side of saying we have to do what we can do, never mind the outcomes, but we must be at the doing and at the being. And we don't can't decide what's going to happen at the end, but we can all do our piece. Uday has done his bit. I think we can all do our bit with reading the book, sharing the book, talking about the book, and most importantly, reflecting and seeing whether we can retitrate our perspective on ownership when it comes to animals and helping to build a kinder, a humane planet. Uday, thank you so much for doing this for everybody, for all of us, for humanity. And don't let this be a parting gift. I think write some more.
Anyway, I'm sorry, this turned out to be quite somber, but that is the subject, unfortunately. So,
No, I think it was thoughtful and thought provoking. So thank you very much for this conversation. Thanks
thank
for
you.
watching, everybody.
Thank you for having me, Deepa.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.